All right, we are live. I'm Jacob. You are watching the Preppers Bunker Outdoors. I'm going to take a moment here to get online so that I can check the comments and stuff. But I have not released a real video, I think, in about 2 weeks. That's a really long time for me. So, I had the internet down for a week, and then I've been working like crazy. Oops. Anyways, I'm going to try and follow along on the chat. What's up, Weston? Good to see you, buddy. All right, so basically I just want to do a video saying back. There's a lot of things for us to talk about right now with the coronavirus, and not so much the virus, but really the stupidity that is following as a general public, and also, of course, at the government level, especially in Kentucky. We've got some new news on that. I'm sure we'll also get into Exodus Knife and Tool, things that are going on with that, which, if you're waiting on the pre-order, it's a little bit behind. It has been affected by the coronavirus, sadly. Good stuff. I reckon we will jump right into it. So what's going on? Basically, I'm not going to talk too much about the virus or what it means or anything else, because I know that basically everybody's news feed is nothing but coronavirus. It's probably getting pretty old by this point. One of the things that I want to mention is that all of my friends are conservative, of course. Yeah, all of them. But most of my friends are what you would consider normies, kind of normal people. And every single one of them believes that the government and media is blowing this out of proportion to make Trump look bad. And what I have to say about that is Texas National Guard, ridiculous. If everybody believes that, because of what the media says, if everybody believes that the government media is doing this to make Trump look bad to affect the elections, that's what you're supposed to think from what the media is doing, and that's probably the only thing that is not the case. And so I don't know what's going on. There are a few things that people are talking about, trying to handicap the economy, sure. But I tell you what else is, people aren't talking about the boogaloo right now. So essentially, I've done a few videos about a second civil war or revolutionary war or boogaloo recently, and I will continue to do videos. But all of these people who are all up in piss and vinegar about a revolutionary war are now panicking and buying toilet paper. And if your boogaloo plans are affected by not having your job and not having payments coming in, and potentially not having the social things that you're used to in the grocery store, you are never going to have a revolution anyways. Like, you're not. I don't know who you're kidding, but all of those things are all things that you will not have, and it'll be much worse. So I'm not saying that to discourage anybody, but I'm saying that, like, you need to start using your brain and thinking about survival as well. Jack, good to have you. I'm glad that you will be listening, and I hope that your drive is safe. A lot of stupid out there right now, although I'm assuming the roads are probably a little bit less busy. One thing that I want to talk about is firearms and ammo. Firearms are selling out all over the place. Ammo is selling out. Of course, like usual, Cheaper Than Dirt is jacking their prices absolutely to the moon, like they always do to screw people. If you buy anything from Cheaper Than Dirt, shame on you. Legitimately. Dirt bags, shame on you. they are. You're not necessarily a dirtbag for buying from them, but if you know how much they suck and you buy from them and you support them when things are good, then you are kind of a dirtbag. But if you were just now preparing for this with firearms and ammo, what's up, Jeff? You're behind the power curve. You shouldn't be emergency buying ammo and guns right now at this moment while the prices are through the roof. That's the wrong answer. And I've been doing videos, like I do videos to try and help my viewers and especially my subscribers. And I've been telling you guys that the cheapest time in the history of the world to buy fighting rifles is about to dry up. And it's basically, I think it's basically gone. I think that we're going to see, these companies way overbuilt before the election in case Hillary got elected. They overstretched themselves on credit. And then when Trump got elected, everybody thought no more infringements for 8 years. And the panic buying stopped altogether. Sales went through the floors. And they're just all sitting on stock. So ARs and AR parts and ammo and everything, and mags especially, were selling for dirt cheap. I think we're about to see that dry up. As soon as that overstock dries up, we are going to see an absolutely stupendous increase in prices. So if you did not take my advice that I've been doing videos about for about the past 6 months now, sucks to be you. You wasted money. Pay attention next time. Now, on the flip side, you probably also should not be stress buying food and water right now, or toilet paper. However, bolstering your canned goods at the hopefully before all the craziness happened or whatever, it's never a bad idea. Pick up a little bit of extra, whatever. I'm not big on preparing. I'm not big on preparing huge quantities of food because you can't transport huge quantities of food and you can't guard your house all the time. It really takes 4 to 6 able-bodied men to pull guard on anything, and a house is nothing but a big flammable target anyways. So I'm not really big on storing huge amounts of food, but having a bit of food is simply prudent. So buying a little bit of that right now is a good idea. I'm actually going to start promoting My Patriot seed supply because they make freeze-dried meals. They're very affordable. They come in totes with locking tops. They're small, they're portable. I think like 2 weeks of food fits into a fairly small tote. You could throw multiple of those totes into a small vehicle and be good to go for a long time. It's pretty amazing. Boosted Fool asked about my thoughts on bugging in versus bugging out. I'll get to that in a moment. But what I'm here to say is most of this stuff you should have already been doing. If you've just got to tie off a couple corners right now, that's fine. The best thing about this coronavirus is making people realize that these things are important and seeing how fragile our economy is, how little power we actually have. Comrade Bashir in Kentucky signs a letter and businesses close, just like that. And and then he says, if you guys can't follow the rules from the CDC, we'll close more stuff. It's literally what he said. If you don't play by my rules, then I'm going to close more of your businesses, all right? He shouldn't be able to say that. That's not his place, and he doesn't have that power. And yet, that's exactly what he's going to do. And this is just over a virus. Imagine over an armed rebellion. You're not going to have public opinion on your side. I guarantee you that right now. Anyways, so what we should be looking at right now, ideally, is you have an AR, even if it's just a cheap one. You have ammo, you have food, you have water, maybe 2 weeks worth for everybody in your family, I think is a prudent goal that's not overreaching. It's not crazy. Nobody's going to think you're a conspiracy theorist. It's not really expensive. It's just prudent. Now, if you have only gotten a little bit of training or no training right now, what you should be looking at is going to tactical response and getting training. I've been recommending these budget ARs, and I'm going to be really testing these budget ARs hard. The reason is, if you try and buy expensive stuff right now, the potential of you wasting your money is exceptionally high. If you take a budget AR and it allows you to afford training and you go get training, then you can talk to people who know, and you can spend your money and invest your money correctly. Thoughts on enforcement of quarantines at home. We'll get to that next. So, you guys, now's the time where if you're saving money and you're going and spending it on something, it should be training. Everything else should already be done, Lord willing. All right, so bugging in versus bugging out. Bugging in versus bugging out depends so heavily on the situation, where you live, your preps, who's in your family. There's a million different variables. What I will tell you is that in most situations, I'm going to bug in, although ideally I'm going to do it with family, because again, you need 4 to 6 able-bodied men just to pull guard. That's not to do anything else. And you need to have someone ready to go at all times. But that is if you do not have a government that is actively pursuing you. And so the only time that it really makes sense to bug out is tsunami, tornado, armed military coming in, or significant government overreach. And you have to look at your family, and you have to look at your preps, and you have to look at what you can do, and you have to look at how much fuel you have, and you have to go from there. And in the kind of scenario where you have to bug out, there are probably going to be roadblocks and roads will probably be shut down. How far can you walk? I've got children now, and these are things that you have to consider. And so, this whole revolution and boog thing, if you've got a family, that's the first thing the government's going to come for. Is going to be your family. Can you hide your family somewhere where nobody's going to find them and where they will actually do it? Have you talked to your family about this? If you haven't thought about these things, you're not revolution ready, not even close. So bugging in versus bugging out, I know that that's broad, but that's what I got. Now, thoughts of enforcing quarantines at home. No government entity should be able to enforce a quarantine unless you have a terminal illness, in which case you should already be in the hospital, right? The coronavirus is so insignificant that it's just a case of government overreach. And all we're doing is ensuring that if someone tests positive for corona, if someone is said to have tested positive for corona, the government can do whatever they want to them and nobody will care. That's what we're building up to right now. So it's an issue. As always, if the government does it and enforces it, it's wrong, essentially, because they're not doing it for the reasons that they're telling you. They just want people to support them. Victor Cox said, a well-aimed .22 is worth its weight in gold. Everything stops with lead in its eye. You're not going to hit something in the eye with your .22. It's just the bottom line. If me and you are in a fight to the death, even if I'm barehanded, you're not going to hit me in the eye. And so you hit me anywhere else, no matter how many times you hit me, I will still be alive long enough to kill you. So the self-defense or offense with .22 discussion, unless you are a trained assassin, is absolute foolishness. And people need to get training because people don't have the context to understand this stuff from a first-hand perspective. One of my absolute best friends had a gun malfunction and shot himself in the stomach and walked to the hospital, went to the hospital, was fine. If you can walk around without adrenaline and without someone trying to kill you, you can also fight. Zach mentioned, I thought we put the 22 myth to bed by now. It's 2020. Sadly, the 22 myth is gaining momentum faster than anything. But I think that as people realize that we are in a crap sandwich, they are looking for knowledge and information. They're not getting training, and they're learning off of forums. And this misinformation is just gaining momentum as we have more and more people who don't have experience but are looking for knowledge, and they don't know where to look. And so it's a bummer deal. And yeah, Boosted Fool just said, I've seen people get mag dumped with 9mm, and surprisingly adrenaline overrides bullets a lot of the time. That's 100% true. And the thing is, 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, and 45 ACP are all equally ineffective. Bottom line. But they are the most practical option for the civilized society in which we live. Okay? You don't really want to go below these calibers, and 40 is certainly the most stupid decision out of these calibers. But you don't want to go below these calibers, but you also don't want to carry around a rifle. Right? That's really simple. But I do know personally of someone who is shot in the forehead at point blank range with 5.56 out of a 249 SAW ND in the MWR in Afghanistan and lived. Didn't penetrate the skull. Bone helmet here, really thick. So firearm lethality is not what Hollywood has taught you that it is, and is not what people think that it is, especially in a fight. Fight is the key word in gunfight, not gun. Francis said coronavirus is SARS and HIV. Government wouldn't risk economy for just a flu. To say that, you have to assume that the government is trying to do what's best for itself and its citizens. Very clearly is not. Coronavirus is nothing. Coronavirus was created, and the government is not risking the economy. The government is gaining power and control. That's more important than anything. Or more importantly, whoever's pulling the strings of governments, plural. Oh no, why is 40 the worst? 40 Smith & Wesson does not have a great capacity advantage over 45 ACP. It has no stopping advantage over 9mm or 45 ACP. It costs more than 9mm. It has a more violent recoil impulse with no gain. It's harder on guns. The only benefit to 40 S&W right now is that the guns themselves are getting incredibly cheap because every government is dumping them because they've realized they're stupid. Ammo's more expensive. There's really no reason to buy 40 Smith & Wesson over 9mm or 45 ACP, and really there's no reason to buy anything instead of just 9mm. The most important thing that you can do is shoot your carry gun a freaking metric butt ton and take lots of training. The cheapest caliber and the easiest caliber to do that with is 9mm. It is what it is. So somebody just asked about 357 Magnum. 357 Magnum still doesn't have the stopping potential, the incapacitation potential of a rifle. It does not have the permanent damage in a temporary cavity potential that a rifle has. It has a better statistical effectiveness than 9mm 45 ACP or 40 Smith & Wesson, but it also has drastically less data to back it up, importantly, and all of the data is like, what, 20 years old since really police were carrying it. The only time 357 really makes sense if you have to do the absolute absolute minimum carry, the smallest thing you can possibly carry for whatever reason, a five shot air weight freaking J-frame Smith might be potentially the best way to go, because a 380 of the same size and of more weight is still only going to have 5 or 6 rounds, but that basically shouldn't really be an option anyways. It's just a bummer deal. So we've got people saying people are being let out of jail, and people letting out for burglars being released from prison, while at the same time police are saying that they're going to stop charging for misdemeanors, etc. But that's what's happening. We are, as the Masonic motto is, order from chaos. That's what we're seeing, and that's what we're going to get. And all of the Boog boys, 99% of the Boog boys are going to be whipped into line when they realize that being hungry sucks, and they kind of like having electricity. Let's see. So is the 33 round Glock 9mm mag practical? It seems like a good idea, but I'm not sure if it's too big to carry practically. I've got 2 of them, cheapy Korean versions. They have almost no practical use, really. It's easier to carry 17 round mags, and they're huge. And if you're going to carry that much weight and size, you might as well carry a small rifle or a rifle pistol. However, I'm not against having one around. If you want to throw one in your car door pocket, more power to you. Zach13 said 10mm if you're going to choose something other than 9mm. Yeah, if you need more horsepower than 9mm, then 10mm is the best option. Now, I have never seen someone go to a training class with a 10mm. Never have. I hope that 10mm prices continue to decline, and if they do, it will become a more viable option. But if I'm out backpacking or something like that, I'd love to have especially in Alaska, I'd love to have a 10mm. I think it's a great cartridge, a great option. You're still not going to get permanent damage in a temporary cavity. You're still under the 2,300 feet per second window, but 10mm is freaking cool. It is a cool cartridge. But like Zach mentioned, he doesn't everyday carry it. It's not really, in a civilized current society, a very viable everyday carry cartridge. Again, because of ammo cost and because you're not training for it. Uncensored asked about AdventureCraft knives. All right, so the next batch of AdventureCraft knives I'm hoping will be around in about a month. They're going to come from a new manufacturer. So we're in completely new territory. I'm not exactly sure how it's all going to go. I hope that they'll be around in about a month. I hope that they will be made in a month, but then I've got to take them to get laser engraved, and I got to ship them off for custom kydex and stuff like that. The next AdventureCraft run will likely be a pre-order, where I'm hoping at least half of a production run will be paid for by pre-orders, and the other half will be a production drop. So it will be a little while. And guys, I deal with people unhappy with the wait times for their AdventureCrafts often. It's really hard on me because what I want is to have an AdventureCraft for everybody that wants one immediately available. And, I understand why people get frustrated and irritated when they have to wait 2 or 3 or 4 months for a pre-order. It sucks. It sucks for me. It's stressful. It sucks for them. But I'm starting the company with minimal capital. I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination. I can't just put $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 down on a run of knives. so that I can just sell them. And so I think that this is just the way that I have to start. And I don't see any way that I can change that right now. I can just do the best that I can and get as many out to the people that want them as I can. So 577 Tyrannosaur, heck yeah. Someone asked what I know about Freemasons. So I was a member of Demolay, a junior Freemason group. Had a great time over there with those guys as a kid. But the reason that I wanted to join was I wanted access to the Masonic library. And when I got it, I pulled a book off the shelf. It was some history of Freemasonry or something like that. And it was, this giant book was handwritten. And the print was like this big. And I opened the book and I was like, I want to learn about Freemasons. And I looked at it and I was like, and I closed the book. Don't know a lot about Freemasons. However, it ain't good. I mean, it ain't good. Yeah, so Boosted asked about drum mags. The biggest problem with drum mags is they're heavy in your gun and they're difficult and impractical to carry on your body. So if they were perfectly reliable, those would still be huge issues. Mags are fairly flat. They're easy to carry in mag pouches. They're easy to quickly draw. They're easy to store, typical stick mags. So really, they are superior in almost every way to a drum mag, unless you've got drum mags in a vehicle, especially if you've got some kind of vehicle set up for a gun hatch or something like that. Maybe you could have a bunch of preloaded drums ready to rock and roll. But for basic practicality and cost, there's just absolutely no reason. I am still making rifle slings. It's a little bit slow right now. I'm getting caught up, but beachandtactical.com is still up, and I'm still making custom slings like a madman. Francis asked, what would you pick between a shotgun or a rifle if other options are illegal in his country? Shotguns are really cool. Here's the problem. The ammo's huge. The ammo's heavy. You can't carry a lot of it. It's got a short distance, and distance is life. Slow, relatively slow follow-up shots. Shotgun is not a viable option for a primary fighting tool. So if I had to choose between the two, I would choose a rifle every single time for every single situation if I could only choose one. No question. So Boosted said, the IRS building in Maryland has an inscription on one of its pillars that says the Bill of Rights was not ordained by God. It's very human, very fragile. That is scary and weird, that's very weird and also scary. AZ Homeboy, this current event appears to be another creation of Hegelian dialectic. Problem, reaction, solution. Create the problem to get the desired reaction and then offer their solution. That's all about 90% of this is. And it's really sad how the sheep will eat right into it. And again, I was talking about the media earlier. If everyone that you know is getting the same opinion from the media, even if it's against the media, that is the goal. PsyOps is something that I'm going to talk about in a video very soon that I have a little bit of experience with, and I have often recently been accused of somehow being a part of. That would actually be kind of cool. Like I'd have like money and a really important job, and my video production quality would probably be a lot better because I'd have someone doing all of my editing for me and something, because I'd be important, but not the case. But it's something that people need to understand, and the media is good at it. Frozen asked what solution. I'm not 100% sure what solution you're talking about, because I probably, when you typed that, I was probably talking about something I don't know at this point. If you could clarify, I'll answer. Grow as much food as you can. Yep. All right. So someone just said they're halfway convinced some Russian operative let this thing go in China after they perfected it in a lab, and Putin is just sitting back laughing. I would definitely disagree. Actually, I believe that the virus manufacturing plant in Wuhan is owned by Bill Gates, has ties to every government on Earth, because it's part of the little elitist ring here. And there's also a book, I think, Welcome to Midnight or Into the Darkness or something like that, from 1981, that said in 2020 there'd be a pandemic called the Wuhan 400 that was going to wipe through everything and be used for government control. I mean, sure, somebody in Russia could be involved, but it's probably just elitists in general. What you need to understand is in Ephesians, it says that we don't fight against powers and principalities. Doggone it. Nations don't matter, because the people in charge of all of these nations, they're all the same people. What we're seeing is different puppet shows of different flavors to make us think that what we are looking at is organic. It's not. It's kind of like fancy survival TV shows or fancy YouTube channels that look really nice. They're supposed to be organic. They're filmed to make you feel like it's all upfront and honest, and none of it is. And that's all we're seeing with all of this. It's essentially Antichrist versus Christ to bring about the tribulation. It's the ultimate goal. So, yeah, it's not one nation versus the other. It's just the evil elitist groups who are probably pulling the chains on all of these secret societies, who pull the chains of these governments, constantly and steadily over generations, working towards a single goal, but making it look organic. Whereas people who are into liberty and freedom and want to work towards that, such as myself, we are organic. And therefore, by not having a singular unified goal over decades and decades and decades, we never make any progress. We just slowly continue to release knowledge, wisdom, and power to these people. Okay. Yeah, the COVID contagion factor is 2. SARS was 4. The measles is 18. There are currently about 4,500 people sick. 88 have died. Yeah, the coronavirus is a freaking joke. It's freaking stupid. Someone asked for examples of a fake YouTube. There's Dave at Ultimate Survival Tips. He is the head of a marketing company. He's not the head, he's the figurehead of a marketing company. His production manager, Ben, had to reach out to me when I was roasting on him because I made them all look bad for calling him out. There's this other guy who everybody loves, freaking John Mark. If you think about where his money is coming from and where his production quality is coming from, and then look at the message that he is advertising for proprietarianism, you'll notice that you'll realize that he's just a shill, and he's selling a bill of goods. Just always follow the money. Like, you watch this channel, I'm making money from my website, Beach and Tactical. I designed a rifle sling in Afghanistan. I make it now. I make them all custom. I sell them on my website. I sell some survival gear. I've got a knife company now, and I do have a few affiliates: Palmetto State Armory, Optics Planet, and pretty soon, My Patriot Seed Supply for food. All right, and these are ways for me to make money. But if you look at the production quality of my videos, I'm just a guy with a bunch of experience trying to share with people, and clearly there's not a lot of money involved here. So the chances of the content from something like that being genuine are very high. The problem is that channels that are genuine typically aren't around as long as I am, because it's way too much work to not be making money. Running a YouTube channel and doing 2 to 3 videos a week is an absolutely insane amount of work. All of the editing, especially if you do it well and you get your production quality way up there, way too much work to not be paid for it. So people that do it only usually do it for about a year. And so it is what it is. All right, I've missed a bunch of stuff. All right, Weston says, the most important thing for everyone is their salvation. Prepping comes second to that. I absolutely agree, but it's, it's been said, faith without works is dead. I'm sorry. Although our works are not what saves us, they are important. You do not have salvation and live without works. The Holy Spirit is calling on Christians to prep right now. So your salvation comes first, but if you have salvation, that means the Holy Spirit is working on you and working through you, and you will understand or have a pull in your heart to do certain things, and one of those is going to be prepping. Faith without works is dead. That's absolutely correct. My hang up is I was trying to say a specific quote, and I can't remember exactly how it worked. It was a freaking awesome quote, and I can't remember the exact wording, so I'm not even going to try, I guess, at this point. Seth asked my opinion on 300 Blackout, the 300 Blackout cartridge. I think 300 Blackout is an awesome cartridge because of its penetration ability, its heavier bullet weight, its subsonic performance, its ability to be suppressed, the fact that it comes from a 5.56 or 223 case, all freaking awesome. When it comes to a fighting rifle, however, just this year, it's like 9mm versus 40 S&W, or even more expensive but similar cartridges. It's going to come down to how much of it can you buy, how much of it are you training with, how much of it are you going to find. I think that 300 Blackout is cool. I do not think that it is it's a caliber that I would choose as a fighting caliber. If I'm going to choose a fighting caliber, it's simply going, and you're just gunning down like people and living like the Terminator, and you're picking up their guns and whatever. Someone's got a 300 Blackout. Keep that ammo far away from your 5.56. But if you find a gun that needs ammo, it comes with ammo. If you find ammo, you probably find a gun. I mean, in this emergency, take whatever you can get. But it's not what I'm gonna pick up on. Someone mentioned that they've been prepping for 8 years. The end of November, they got extremely sick, spent a month in the hospital, and is now unable to walk. Sometimes no matter how much you prepare, things are uncontrollable. You can't prepare for everything. We don't know exactly what we're preparing for. I found myself in a similar position. I broke my ankle. I couldn't walk for 2 months. I was completely bedbound. Then I could barely walk after that. And I was trying to do YouTube videos like on crutches. I was in so much pain. I was so weak. I was so out of breath. People watch the videos to this day and they comment like, this guy doesn't know how to use an axe, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like out there like just, I was absolutely in a bad place. The only thing you can do in that situation is try and get into a better position, keep your ear to the ground, and make smart decisions. And really, prepping, everything that you do is supplemental. Prepping is really about the mindset and keeping your eyes open. Everything else, everything else is the tool. You are the weapon. Someone asked if I consider myself a voluntarist or an anarchist. I do not consider myself an anarchist. I would probably be closer to a voluntarist, but I consider myself a supporter of a constitutional republic. So definitely I'm left on the spectrum of an anarchist, but I am so far right of today's Republicans or conservatives that it's ridiculous. So I would say on the political spectrum, a constitutional republic is far closer to voluntarism or anarchy than it is to what we see today, even conservatism, which is just socialist today. So limited government is the key. I do believe that we need a government. People say taxation is theft. I say it sometimes too, but really taxation without representation or whatever is theft. Taxation on absolutely everything, having no control of where that money is being spent, having no say in how it's spent, and being forced to pay it or either, or dying, that is theft. So if that answers your question, I'm glad. If not, then let me know. Thank you, AZ Homeboy. I don't know Owen Benjamin, for what it's worth. I don't know who that is. Fabian Society. I'll try and remember that and check it out. If you don't mind, send me an email at thepreppersbunkeroutdoors@gmail.com and remind me. I'm trying to work a full-time job right now and do my beach and tactical slings and stay on top of these knives and do a YouTube, so I'm having a hard time staying on top of stuff. But if you send me an email, it will help me greatly. Someone asked what my thoughts are on the PSA KS47. All right, so I mentioned that I am a PSA brand ambassador. That does not mean that I will ever recommend something that I don't believe in or agree with. I think that the PSA KS47, I think its primary purpose is as a toy. And if you can afford to get a toy, because you already have the bases covered for your tools, then great. I fully support diversity. You should make sure that you have all of your primary bases covered for your hunting rifle and your fighting rifle and your fighting hunting shotgun and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if you've got all of those things and you've got money and you've got time and you're able to get training and you've got ammo, freaking buy everything that's cool. I mean, that's cool, but yeah. Someone said the tribulation is not here, right? That is correct. The tribulation is not here. If Mennonites and Amish who have no social security card or number could not own land or buy or sell, I would say we're getting close to a bad time. Since they can, we're good. You will know that we are getting awfully close to the tribulation, if nothing else, when you cannot buy or sell land or buy or sell anything. So if cash is no longer usable and you have to have a government approved ID to buy or sell using fake currency and this and that and the other, and there's no way to get around it, we're looking at knocking on the door of some really hard times, and we are close to that. I did hear about the murder of Duncan Lemp. Wasn't he the 17 or 18-year-old who owned a few ARs and was shot and murdered while he was asleep in his bed next to his pregnant girlfriend? I believe that was the case. Just more government overreach. What convinces me that Kung Flu is a ploy to enact OWG? So the fact that such an ineffective virus with a 2-week breeding cycle or whatever passes around the world in 3 months, and that governments are acting a fool over it, and it makes no sense. If something doesn't make sense, it's probably because something's shady, right? And then when you start looking at it and it only makes less and less sense as you look into it, that's when it's probably a red flag. Andrew, yeah, everything's good, bud. It's getting a little silly in Kentucky. Restaurants are a lot of restaurants are being closed. Their only option is takeout right now. Now, I think massage parlors, gyms, and barbershops and salons also were just forced to close by Comrade Bashir. Luckily, I'm not in any of those positions, and I hope that every single teacher, restaurant owner, and business owner who voted for Bashir is absolutely freaking screwed, because they're morons and that's what they deserve. Someone asked if I believe in a pre-trib or post-trib rapture. We have Matthew 23, I believe it is, and I believe we also have chapter in Mark that give us a chronological order of events. And in both, Christ comes after the tribulation. He doesn't come 3 or 4 or 2.5 times. After the tribulation, he comes. We also have scriptures about the tribulation. Why would the tribulation be in the Bible if Christians weren't going to be in it? It would have nothing to do with us. It would just be like some weird punishment for the unsaved. And we have specific descriptions of what's going to happen to Christians during this time and what we need to do as Christians during this time. None of that would happen if there was a pre-trib. The pre-trib is, I've never in my life, not one time, seen a good argument for pre-trib that scripturally stands up and makes sense when compared to the rest of Scripture. So definitely post-trib. Hey, Mom. What's up? Glad to have you. Best 9mm. I'm assuming you're talking pistol, and so that's a really simple question. Glock 19, Glock 17, or potentially Glock 43, 43X, or 48. That's just kind of the meat and potatoes right there, but basically Glock 19 or Glock 17. Easiest question of the day. Andrew says glad he's not in Kentucky right now. I am too. I will say that a lot of other states have it worse, but yeah, freaking Kentucky is garbage right now. Luke 21:28. I like it, buddy. What do you think would be the best medication to prep for someone fairly healthy? Hard question. I'm not really a big medical guy. Learn your tourniquet. Learn needle chest decompression. For medication, antibiotics. That's all I got. Maybe some painkillers. Maybe some caffeine tablets. I don't know. Medical to me is like stop the bleeding and suck it up and hope that you get to someone who knows something more than me, and you haven't lost too much blood by the time you get there. It's about as far as I've gotten. Yes, Mark 13. Thank you, Dad. What's up, Flatjacks? Thoughts on the Q thing? I'm Rob Call. I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about with the Q thing. Um, please elaborate. I probably am missing something. Andrew, you're moving to Kentucky. You're gonna have to let me know more about that, dude. That's pretty wild. The offensive redneck. I love your online name there, just like a grunt. Probably mostly accurate. Yep. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, infantry. Yeah. Matthew 24:43. Let's see here. Matthew 24:43. Oh, Matthew. Oops. Okay, Matthew 24:43. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. We have a God-given responsibility, not like it's a good idea or anything else. We have a God-given responsibility to pay attention to the times and to the signs and to study our scriptures. And too many Christians today are like, it doesn't affect me. I don't need to know. It's just love, whatever. And Satan has redefined love and judgment so that people can think that if you are a good person and you just love, that that's all you need to know about Christianity. Why even open your Bible? Don't judge anybody, and anything else is unchristian. These people don't know what it means to be a Christian by just the simple perversion of a few short words. And we have far more responsibility than just that. But yes, we have a responsibility to watch, no question. Andrew, I look forward to talking to you on PM. Never waste a good crisis. I don't think that the government is doing this because the coronavirus mostly affects old people and our government leaders are old people. Because our government leaders, it mostly affects old people who are poor. These rich old people, they're not worried about it. If they're worried about anything, it's about shingles and the flu. So Boosted Fool, if he's been saved but is not super religious, am I okay? Or that isn't a question that I can't really answer for you. And the reason is I can't tell you if you've really been saved. Only you can know that. I can tell you that being saved does not have anything to do with words that you said at church. And I can't tell you what being super religious is. That means different things to different people. You should know if you are truly saved. Salvation is baptism, a permanent change of the heart, a permanent change of who you are. So although we still live in the flesh and we will always be challenged and always fall due to the flesh, the Holy Spirit living in you is going to let you know that you're screwing up, and you should you know. So being super religious, if that means to you following some stereotypical Christian lifestyle, I don't know that that's necessary, but the stereotypical Christian lifestyle is bullcrap. The Christian that we have been fed is a pacifist and effeminate, worthless human being. The Christian that the scriptures defines is masculine. Being effeminate is a sin on par with homosexuality, and there is no amount of pacifism really in scripture that a Christian must follow. So, so just that's really that's really that's really on you, man. Um, Thoughts on the United Nations Agenda 2021-2030? All bad. All bad. Luckily, the UN is completely worthless, but they are fulfilling their task, and their strings are being pulled by the same puppeteer who pulls the strings of every other nation, and Donald Trump himself, and all of our people as well. So it just doesn't matter. Yes, Lyme disease is something that worries me far more than corona myself. Black Sheep said if he gets the corona, buy him a plane ticket to DC. I'm on board, buddy. Salvation is only by grace through faith, not by works. That is correct, but faith by grace does not exist without works. Cannot exist without works. So Boosted mentioned, thanks for clarifying. It's forcibly raised on Christianity, and the people who are in the small town are very hypocritical, and he spent his life trying to distance himself from it. I would say, I hear that a lot. I would say what you're distancing yourself from is not Christianity, it's people, because people suck. And a lot of people, the Bible says that a lot of people are going to stand in judgment and say, Lord, Lord, I did these things in your name. And he's going to say, depart from me, I never knew you. Most Christians, the vast majority of Christians are not saved. So they're dirtbags trying to use a social Christianity to get what they want. You're not distancing yourself from Christ or Christianity. You need to draw yourself closer to Scripture. You are distancing yourself from people who would use Scripture to get their own ends. And to take the Lord's name in vain, which is what that is the only sin that is not having salvation that will not be forgiven. And so if you are doing something that God says he will not forgive, that should give you a moment's pause. And there you go. Flapjacks, Matthew 24:11, and many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. We've got nothing. Everybody who says they're a prophet right now is a false prophet. So, we've got a lot of that, a lot of misguidance. The offensive rednecks. So I'm wondering, have any of you thought of starting a community together, self-sufficient, a lot more end of civilization proof than going the whole lone wolf style? The problem is, I believe that all of us have thought about that. The problem is, if you have 3 people together, one of them is looking for an opportunity to stab the other 2 in the back. Don't remember who said that. Some theologian or something that I came across a long time ago. But we know that in end times, brother will go against brother, father against son, daughter against mother, etc. Right now, the cards aren't on the table, and we don't know who we can really trust. And so keeping your cards close to your chest right now is really smart. I personally believe I want to get a community together. I want to get people that I believe I can trust together in one place. But essentially what you are doing, what you could be doing in that situation is getting a whole lot of targets in one place for easy, quick, and quiet elimination. Not ideal. Boosted said if we have 3 people together, 2 of them are federal agents. That's hilarious. I wouldn't say 2 of them are federal agents. I would say 2 of them are looking to get paid by federal agents. The federal government doesn't have that many operatives, but it's got the money to pay people to snitch on you, that's for sure. All right, so Patrick Marshall says he's been trying to find information for reducing potential hammer follow with 75 grain 223. Have you ever messed around with Franklin Armory BSF3? I have not messed around with anything from Franklin Armory. I am not super familiar with the term hammer follow, but I assume it means that the hammer follows the bolt carrier group forward after it cycles, meaning that the trigger is not reset and not ready to fire again. Uh, One thing that people need to understand is that the proper barrel twist is often tied to bullet weight because it's simple. However, barrel twist and bullet weight are not connected. Bullet length and barrel twist are connected, and generally heavier bullets are longer. However, the 62 grain M82 ball ammo with the steel core is longer because the steel is not as heavy as lead. Therefore, the round actually requires a twist rate of a heavier bullet. And a 72 grain bullet should be the same length and should stabilize the same way with the same twist as a 72 grain. I'm not exactly sure about a 75 grain, but I'm not 100% sure how that bullet weight is going to change the timing of the rifle to the point where it could affect the trigger reset. It sounds like a trigger issue specifically. Now, if the Franklin Armory BSF3 that you're talking about is a different trigger group that gives you some kind of cool third option legally, it's outside of my wheelhouse. I think that's the biggest reason to stay mil spec is because it's simple and there's a lot of information out there about it. All right, so Boosted Fool, noob question here. Does it matter if you stock up on cheap ammo for the Boog? I'm talking bottom barrel, you are broke level ammo. I would say anything is useless. I shoot a lot of cheap ammo, guys, like freaking a lot of cheap ammo, especially in training. I do like to have nicer ammo around, but the reality is that a firefight's probably not going to last you more than 270 rounds, right? If you have one or two malfunctions due to cheap ammo in that time period, Lord willing, you have a clean gun. It's a quick tap rack situation, and Lord willing, it will not cost you your life. Having the ammo is going to be better than not having the ammo. However, you could have a catastrophic failure, etc. I don't know what the likelihood of that is. And if you are in combat, the likelihood of you having a perfectly clean and oiled gun is very low because you've probably been out in the bush. Your gun has not been protected from the elements and you're having a suck fest. But nothing could be worse than having a government issued AR. I don't think I've ever in my life been issued an AR that was reliable for more than 2 magazines. So you're going to do better than that, which isn't worth anything to even say. But the leftist thing asked semi-auto or pump shotgun. James Yeager brought up a good point in a video with Tim where he said the number one malfunction that they see is people short pumping, I believe, or forgetting to pump altogether and getting a click, no bang. If you take away the operator's ability to forget a step in firing, that is a good thing. I think semi-automatic shotguns have come a very long way in the last, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. However, I would say ultimate mechanical reliability is likely still greater with a pump. Buy a good gun and get training with it is all I can really say to you. And luckily, guns hold value. So if you make the wrong decision in training, you should learn what the right decision is and take it. And ideally, don't do what I did and take a gun to training 3, 4, 5, 6 times that might not be ideal, and then make the swap. Like if you're at a reputable training place and they're like, hey, you should probably be running this gun and not the gun that you're running. If they're reputable, probably just take them up on it. And it's probably going to be the boring gun to run that everybody else is running as well. All right, Dad, have a good night. Suckfest. Yes, Mom, that's something that I say quite often on this channel. Part of my regular vocabulary. Radon says Streichers has Federal HydroShock 9mm in 124 and 147 grain. $24 for a box of 50 if anybody needs any. Man, I shouldn't talk about this, but I bought Target Sports USA, I think. I shared it on my YouTube. I bought Federal HydroShock Spear Gold Dot 147 grain. I think I either bought 1,000 rounds or 500, and I think I paid like $10 a box. Freaking just amazing. So if you can buy in bulk, do. Right now is not the time for it because everybody else is trying to. A Frozen mentioned many guys short stroke during a bear charge with a pump action shotgun. I absolutely believe it, 100%. And it's just going to come down to training. But people don't realize that when you are in a fight, which if you are shooting at a charging bear, you are in a fight. When you are in a fight, you make such stupid mistakes. And the idea of training is finding those mistakes and fixing them through muscle memory and good muscle memory, good repetitions of proper technique. And people don't have it. Just today, one of my coworkers, I mentioned, let's go get some training to my friend. And one of my coworkers overheard that you should pay $250. He said, $250 a day to learn to shoot a gun? And I said, you think you can fight with a gun? Hell yeah, I don't need training to learn how to shoot a gun. I said, I guarantee you 100% that you can't shoot a gun like you think you can, especially in a fight. You cannot draw and shoot your gun like you think you can. He said, Psst. I said, I'll put money on it right now. You want to talk about a day's pay, a week's pay? What's up? And he said, no, I'm not going to put money on it, but I guarantee you. I said, so you'll put your life on it, but you won't put money on it? It's the mentality of people. But the Dunning-Kruger effect says the less that you know, the higher your confidence will be. The less you know, the more you think you know. The more you start to learn, the more you realize how much you have to learn, the more your confidence goes down, and it does start to come back up as experience continues to grow at a certain point. But you will always realize the more training you get, the more training you need to get. Boosted said, have you given any thoughts to the U.S. Air Force and the Boog? I notice I never hear anybody talk about close air support choppers and FLIR. It's no joke. You're right, it is no joke, and I don't know what role it will play, but I do know that people don't even know how to sleep outside at night and not attract attention to themselves. And sleeping outside at night and not attracting attention to yourself and not giving off thermal signature is a bad deal. I don't have answers. What's your take on using handgun rounds in rifles, 500 Magnum or 50 Magnum specifically? I don't think that there is ever a practical time in a fighting scenario to put any handgun caliber into a rifle under any circumstance, ever. Ammunition industry is 6 months behind on orders. I really don't want to deal with anything like this 22 shortage ever again. And I have a feeling it's just coming right back up. Ammo shortages are stressful. It sucks. Patrick, someone mentioned they wish they had more time for training. They're not prepared in that aspect. Thank you for being on, Jack. Have a good and safe night. Training is the hardest part of prepping. It's not as fun as buying. Nothing is as fun as buying if you're like me. It's a lot more work. It's really expensive. You're going to realize it's going to like boost your insecurities. You're not going to realize you're not as good as you thought that you were. No part of it is as attractive as buying a new gun part. And it's hard to schedule. If you've got money, you can buy stuff anytime, no matter what you're doing. It's hard to schedule training. Please, if you can, try to get out there and get some training. I mean, it could mean everything. It's so important. And I, in the military, had a friend who's now Special Forces talk to me about going and doing a competition at Thunder Ranch and getting training in this and that. I was like, dude, we freaking train all the time, and I want to spend my free time on me. And it wasn't until after I got out that I went and sought out training at Tactical Response. And it's a life changer. It really is. And you realize, well, I mean, if you got your training in the military or through any government organization, training for the most part probably sucked, right? Socialism doesn't work. Getting training for someone who just wants to clock out and go get a beer, and being a soldier that has to be in training and who just wants to clock out and go get a beer is not good training. Therefore, none of the military's training is any good. Frontline said, tell us how. Let me know what you're talking about, because I'm already not knowing what we're talking about because I'm a little behind on that. A normal fire blanket will reflect body heat to make you harder to see with FLIR standing next to a warm engine in a vehicle. Night vision is a bit more limited than people think. Night vision is absolutely more limited than people think. However, I had PVS 13s. They're just freaking absolute trash. It's come a long way. It's about to come a whole lot longer. And now on the free market, you can get thermal red dots. That's freaking mind-blowing. And night vision is only going to get better and better and better. And my advice to a patriot is to not do anything at night except avoid being seen. Because no matter how much money you have spent, we will always be at a technological and logistical disadvantage in the long run, especially at night. So don't do anything. Don't move. Don't go somewhere where you give off your heat signature. Don't make any noise. Don't make a fire. Be still. You are at the greatest disadvantage at night. You are at less of a disadvantage during the day. Find your advantages and cling to them very tightly, because they're going to be few and far between. Black Sheep said Jaeger is a determined dude. If there is one word that I could use to describe Jaeger, which I don't know James Jaeger as well as some other people do, but I have spent over 40 or 60 hours confined in a vehicle with him before. And I would say if there's one word to determine James, be it positive or negative or some combination of the two, it would be determined. I like that Jaeger is a man of principle. We need more men of principle. Absolutely. Okay, advice for sleeping outside at night. Get a bivy, get a good sleeping bag, and maybe get a puss pad, a sleeping pad of some sort, and go out and do it. And it's going to suck and you're going to be miserable. And then like if it's raining or whatever, be on guard, get like 4 hours of sleep, 2-hour stints, and spend the rest of the time being miserable sitting in the rain. That's what you got to get used to. And if nobody's forcing you to do it, you're probably not going to do it, but it's what you need to do. It's a hard deal. But yeah, just you just got to do it, man. And I slept outside 4 or 6 years with no sleeping pad, and it sucks. My body probably is damaged at this point because of it. But I mean, if you're going to sleep with it or on it, you got to carry it. It's a bad deal. Can you survive off just eating fish and eating grass? Boosted, I'm not the man to answer that question. I don't know jack crap about eating grass, but I would say it's probably not going to get you very far for very long. I would say you can live a long time off fish, but you need to be finding something else too. You need fat. And it's going to screw with your head because it's going to be 1000% different than what your body has been used to for decades. So be ready for mental challenges. Jacob, as a fellow vet, stressed the importance of water for some. Boog. Everybody is dehydrated. You're supposed to be drinking like a gallon a day, and the average person maybe drinks like 20 ounces. And so if you're dehydrated and you're used to being dehydrated, you're going to go out for a day of suck. Your entire body is going to cramp and you're going to fail. You're going to break down and you're going to curl up and you're going to be like, why does my life suck so bad? And it's because you've been dehydrated for decades and you don't even know how to get hydrated. And carrying enough water to stay hydrated means that you got to be really, really strong. Finding water sources and purifying them is a lot of work. Get used to it, because it all sucks. And nobody that's out there talking boog and playing this whole game has experienced any of it. And that's what is so frustrating. And they won't put themselves out to experience it because they're not serious about it. But they say they are. And if they actually were, the government might care, but the government knows that you're not. Plants are hard. Boosted talked about eating fish and squirrel and small animals, but does not know about plants. Wild edibles are different all year round in every area. Being an expert in wild edibles is a lost art. Now I say that. There are people out there who are very good at it in their area, and there are people out there who are very good in multiple areas. But as a whole, as a society, it is a lost art. I don't have it. So yeah, small animals are the deal. Here's the deal. Go out with no food and hunt small animals. You will be very hungry and you'll intake maybe 500 calories a day. Because the small animals, they're really good at not getting shot or killed or getting into traps, especially if you're moving a lot. And it's just basically not doable. I mean, it's really hard. You're gonna be so hungry. All of my survival trips have been suck fests. And I suck more than others. Like my survival trips with Zach, he kept looking at me like, why are you so miserable, dude? It hits me pretty hard. And he's like, freaking Superman, so it doesn't hit him as hard somehow. But people have this idea of going out and living off the land, and all these rednecks are like, I hunt squirrel as a kid and brought food for the house. Yeah, you did a couple times. That's great. Try doing it every day, and it's going to be a lot harder than you think. And you're going to start looking for people's livestock to kill and eat because it's going to be a lot easier. But yeah, potatoes and fish would be great. Lamb quarters. Yeah. Yeah, guys, there's a reason that hunter gatherers don't exist anymore, really, and that farms took over because keeping and raising animals, larger animals, and growing some plants is far more efficient and viable than always moving and following herds of animals that pretty much don't exist anymore. Um, Deer are gonna, if we went like grid down, deer would become scarce really quick. The settlers and people, I love when people talk about Indians because they have this big fantasy about what Indians are. So, and they think that like Indians like super respected the earth and this and that and the other thing. And they generalize all Indians in certain ways. So the settlers that settled in Ohio, Indians decided that they didn't like them. So for 20 square miles, they killed absolutely every single animal, just slaughtered them and left them on the ground so that the white folk couldn't eat. Somehow the white folk lived, but when a person could go out and take a few deer in a single day, all of a sudden they'd go out for days and be lucky if they found a deer after this. So that's pretty much where we're living right now is I mean, we've got a lot of deer around where I live, but it would not take long for them to freaking evaporate. And people have forgotten how to store food and how to cook food and how to fully utilize deer. So for every deer that you got, there would be 100 yee-yees out there who kill a deer, take a little bit of meat off of it, and have like a 90% waste ratio. And that's the way it's going to be, and you can't do anything about it. But yes, that's why a diverse skill set and knowing your local environment is so critical. I agree, Kevin. Paul said that he always hikes with a 50-pound pack and a rifle every other day up and down his mountain, but he's not abandoning the farm. If you always hike with a 50-pound pack and your rifle, you are physically so far ahead than the entire population, to include the military, that you are doing really good, and I am jealous of you. I wish I had the motivation to do that myself. That's freaking awesome. Well, guys, I'm going to sign off here. It's been a long live video. Glad to hear that you are using that Beach and Tactical Sling. It's been wonderful. I will have at least another video up this weekend. I might try and do another live video on Friday, probably a little more structured, but I love doing it. I'll answer one more question here. What do you think about bugging in or bugging out if you live outside a small town about 3 miles? Buddy, it's just going to depend. I mean, is it a tsunami, is it a tornado, or is the government coming to kill you? Unless, it's an extreme situation, and depending on your family, you're going to probably want to bug in, at least for a couple weeks. But it's going to be a hard deal. Good night, guys. Thank you for watching.